Well, hello, and welcome to episode 146 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, today we're going to be talking about a movie that lost 7 Academy Awards, but it won the hearts and minds of STEM kids, of NASA scientists, of budding engineers, of fans of Matt Damon. Today we're talking about The Martian.
Today we're talking about The Martian, and it's so sad to hear you say it like that. It lost 7 Oscars.
It
Oh
did.
my God. For a movie that is so good and so amazing in so many ways, it's so sad that it didn't do better in the old Oscar. I guess the 2016 Oscars is
Hmm.
when it happened. Um,
Yep.
it's a shame. I mean, there was a lot going on in 2016, and we can talk about it. But I do remember there being a lot of kerfuffle. There was a lot of jokes around, hey, why does Matt Damon get to be the astronaut that like gets stuck in the middle of space? Like, because there's a couple movies that have that as a
Mm.
theme. Where
Hmm.
he's
Hmm.
stuck and people are having to go get him. And they're like, he's stuck in space. He's stuck in World War II when he's saving Private Ryan. Like, he gets stuck and a bunch of people like figure out things and move the earth and sky in order to save him. And why is that the case? But I
Yeah.
think in this case, this movie, like you said, it won a lot of hearts and minds. And I'm really glad that we're finally going to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what we're going to need to do, Michaela, is before we get into the movie, we're going to need to make up a cocktail that is out of this world. Kaboom! There you go, nailed it. No potatoes are going to be harmed in the making of this cocktail, though. Don't worry there. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and we will be right back to mix up this week's drink.
So this cocktail comes from Harper's Bazaar, as all the amazing, well, maybe not all, but a lot of amazing Oscar cocktail recipes come from. They do a yearly, or at least they used to. Maybe they won't this year. We don't know. It depends on what happens with the Oscars, I guess. But they do kind of a yearly, hey, this is our take on a bunch of cocktails that are up for Best Picture. Spoiler warning, The
Mm-hmm.
Martian was up for Best Picture. Didn't win, but that's okay. This
True.
cocktail, though, looked interesting. I mean, when we were looking at options for this and we were ruminating about what we would do, we were thinking we wanted something that was potatoy, so like a vodka based drink.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw this one and I thought, this is so beautiful. And we're going to definitely talk about the set design, and the art design and art direction of this film, because it is absolutely stunning the way that they depict Mars, having never been to Mars. So this one won out. And I think the potatoes would be happy and proud of us in our non-potatoy drink.
That's right. I mean, you could make the argument that Matt Damon missed the boat, so not making any vodka with all the potatoes he was growing. You run out of ketchup. You need to do something with those potatoes because that's gonna go a long way. But yeah, this cocktail is beautiful. It's called the Martian Sunrise, I believe, is what it's called. Sunrise, sunset, one of those. Either way, it's going to be the same thing. So here we go. Into your shaker tin, let's put 1.5 ounces of coconut rum, 1 ounce of añejo tequila. That's what it calls for here in the Harper's Bazaar recipe. Añejo tequila is like the third tier of aged tequilas. Then there's like an extra añejo that's even aged more than that. Añejo tequila is therefore more expensive because it's older. I don't think you need to do that because you're using coconut rum. We're going to be using some pineapple juice. So I used a reposado tequila. And honestly, I didn't lose much because there's not a lot of tequila flavors going on here, but use whatever tequila you want to. 1 ounce of that, 4 ounces of the pineapple juice, a splash or so of lime juice. I just squeezed like a wedge of lime into mine, and then add some ice and shake it up and strain it into like a martini glass because you want something that is going to be big and let the next ingredient striate through there, and it creates this really cool sunrise or sunset effect. So then what you're going to do, pour that into your glass, and then I took about a half ounce or so of grenadine and just poured that in there, and it kind of swirls around and settles to the bottom, and it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. I was sad when we first looked at this. Of course, Brian, you were sad as well that it had Malibu coconut rum, because
Yes.
that's not your favorite profile. What I have to say though is I was really kind of excited about this because it's like a tequila sunrise. Because of you have the tequila in it, but the rum gives a kind of an extra sweetness, and it's very islandy kind of because of the
Yeah.
pineapple juice, and it's got a Mai
Mhm.
Tai feel to it. It's a little sweet to me. So you definitely want to be, in my opinion, be a little heavy on that splash of lime juice. Make sure it's fresh lime juice and not just that ascorbic acid stuff that you buy in a grocery store. I think that will add to the brightness a little bit and cut some of the sweetness.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. This definitely has an island kind of feel, like a tiki vibe kind of to it. And coconut is not my favorite flavor, but in stuff like this, it works okay for me. Kind of in like this blending of tropical flavors of the coconut and the pineapple, and then you have like the grenadine, which is pomegranate. So you get like those flavor kind of mixtures, and the coconut kind of combines in there and is better. So I don't mind that so much. Now the tequila to me was completely lost in this. All I was getting was pineapple and just kind of like
Mm.
this hint of coconut in it. If I was making it again, I would probably swap the amounts and do 1.5 ounces of tequila and 1 ounce of the coconut rum, because I still think you would get that hint of coconut, but you get a little bit more backbone there from the tequila. And I think that this drink needed that a little bit. But it is gorgeous, and it lends itself to the film really well, because Matt Damon's character makes a big deal, and one of these 100 monologues he has throughout the film about going out to watch the Martian sunset, because that's the most amazing thing that anyone can do, and he gets to do it all the time. So I think that that's really cool, and this drink goes with it really well. So give this a try, mix it up, send us a picture, because they're very cool looking, and let us know what you think, and let us know what you think about coconut rum. Be on my side, please. But for now, Michaela, let's mix up another one of these, and we will be right back to chat about this week's film, The Martian.
Spoiler warning for The Martian. If you've not yet seen this 2015 space odyssey, then you should press pause right now. You should go make yourself a Martian sunrise. Put as much Malibu coconut rum in it as you like, drink it, and then come back, watch the movie, come back and listen to us chat about it, because we're going to talk about all the things, including the end. And spoiler warning, he's saved. The Martian gets saved. It just takes a
He
while.
does.
It takes like
It
3 years to save this guy.
it takes a lot of souls. On a quick aside, there are lots of different versions of rum now, all sorts of flavors. Why do we have to keep having coconut? I digress. So The Martian was released in 2015. It was directed by the one, the only Ridley Scott, and it stars Matt Damon as the most powerful botanist on Mars, the stranded Mark Watney. And basically, it stars everyone else who is famous in Hollywood: Jessica Chastain, Kristen Wiig, Kate Mara, Jeff Daniels, Sean Bean, Sebastian Stan, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Benedict Wong, Donald Glover, Nick Mohammed. Everyone is in this movie, basically in some way or another. And we're going to talk about most of those people here as we go through this. But the big one, obviously, is Matt Damon, who is going to get nominated for an Academy Award. Normally, I would say, man, Matt Damon got robbed in this Academy Award, and you can make the argument that he did, but Leonardo DiCaprio won the Academy Award that year, so I not maybe as good in The Revenant. I don't know for sure, but he definitely deserved it at some point. So this works for me. So like I said, loser of 7 Academy Awards, Michaela. Gonna rattle these off real quick, and then we can chat about the rights or wrongs of the Academy. Production design, visual effects, sound editing, sound mixing, adapted screenplay based on a book. This one. Matt Damon as Best Actor and Best Picture. Ridley Scott not nominated, on a side note, but loser of 7 Academy Awards. That's kind of historic. You rarely see that sort of goose egg going on.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't seen something like this since, I think, it was a couple years
Well,
ago.
not I guess not that long. Banshees of Inisherin last year lost like 100 Academy Awards.
That's
So
true. That's true. I mean, did it win any? Martian
no,
didn't win any of these, right? So I
no.
think also that movie about, I'm gonna have to look it up. It's got it wasn't Jeffrey Rush. Oh my gosh, it was the movie about the guy who wrote Rosebud. It was the movie about, it was called Monk or
Oh yeah, Monk. Yeah.
Monk. Yeah. Ha. Okay. So I don't think we've seen this since like Monk, because Monk got nominated for a ton of awards and I don't think won any either.
Hmm.
So it's kind of got that feel. Although Martian, I think, was a bigger commercial success, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Did you read this book? Because I read this when I found out that it was nominated, because I really
Mm.
like to be an informed opinion haver when it comes to adapted screenplays. So I read the book. Um,
Mm.
Have
So
you?
I did not read the books. Yeah, so there's the book is written by Andy Weir. And I saw some quotes from it because I was just pulling out some quotes from the movie, and it had it actually broken down of quotes from the movie and quotes from the book. And it seemed like the quotes that were taken from the book really seemed like they kind of nailed the character here of Mark Watney. But you read it. What did you think? Was it a good kind of kind of likeness there in the characterization or the way that the story played out?
Yeah, I thought this was tremendous, and I was really sad to see that it didn't win. And I can't remember what did that year. I'm looking it up. But what I will say is, I think that the blending in this story of the science as
Hmm.
well as all of the kind of the political aspects, because we get help from other countries to kind of make this happen. The whole idea of the space program and who does what and what the processes are, was so well put together in the book, and then it translated so beautifully onto the screen to create this compelling story. Aside from the visualizations that are really special and striking as well, I thought that
Hmm.
it definitely deserved a nomination. I'm gonna go and say that I think it probably also deserved to win, but well, I digress. We can't be crying over spilled Oscars that didn't happen, that didn't materialize for this movie. But
That's
um,
true.
I thought it was really cool the way this was done. It really kind of struck me um, as a problem solving kind of saga,
Hmm.
that reminded me a lot of Apollo 13. This is obviously a fictional story, and Apollo 13 is based on a true story. But this I really loved how all of these different aspects came together and created this story in a really loving and human way. And Matt Damon does just a really great job of um, making the character likable yet also believable in the fact that he's brilliant and smart, and also really alone and scared on literally on a planet millions and millions of miles away from any sort of civilization. With At the beginning, we don't think any help is coming his way, right?
Right. Hmm. Yeah,
So
exactly. And it's kind of it's similar in story to something like Castaway with Tom Hanks, but in there Tom Hanks' character in Castaway was very much of like this fish out of water character. He had to learn all of these things, learn how to survive. But here you have Mark Watney, who is a scientist who has been living on Mars, who understands the way that these things work. So it's kind of a different telling there, but same kind of thing, right? So kind of this stranded at sea story sort of thing. And how do you get stranded at sea? Basically, your team gets told to leave, and they leave you behind. Womp womp. That's okay. They didn't do it on purpose. They thought that Mark Watney was dead. They get told from NASA that there is a big windstorm coming. It's time to get out of there, get on your little shuttle, fly up, and come home because you're not going to survive this windstorm that's coming through. So Jessica Chastain's playing the commanding officer here, Melissa Lewis, and followed by the other cadets. Uh, astronauts they're called. Kate Mara playing Beth, Michael Pena playing Rick, Sebastian Stan playing Chris, and Axel Henny playing Alex Vogel there. So they're all getting ready to set off. The winds are coming in, and Mark Watney takes one to the chest by way of some sort of little antenna thing. They can't find him. They can't contact him on his comms. All signs are showing that he's dead, and they don't have time to get out of here. This all happens like the first 8 minutes of the movie. So basically, he's stranded right from the get go.
yeah, and I gotta say, I love this because I think in again, a real life situation, you don't have a lot of time. You have to weigh and measure this. And of course, Jessica Chastain, who is amazing and pretty much everything she touches, I have to go see. She's Commander Melissa Lewis, and she takes it on herself. She's like, I'm gonna go out and look for him, and they're like, we're gonna die here. Like, I mean, come on, we got to get going. And she doesn't have a lot of time. They have to take off. It takes like you said, the first 8 minutes. And when Mark Watney finally does wake up, he's waking up to a bunch of alarms going off in his suit saying, "You're gonna run out of air. You're depressurized, like you're gonna die any minute. Please make your happy way over to the hab," which is like this habilitation area. It's basically kind of a lab that's inside, that's been placed on Mars over the course of, I don't know, 50 years. We don't really know what year it is or anything like that, so we don't know kind of how long these missions have been going.
Mm-hmm.
But he makes his way in there. He does this really rough kind of surgery, pulling the stuff out of his belly and like
Mm.
stapling himself, and that's
It's
that's
quite
hard.
uncomfortable. It's quite uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah.
My least favorite part of this is Mark Watney wakes up and he's got like this antenna sticking into him, and there's a cable like attached to the thing, and he just starts walking, right? Because he's so dazed and confused and out of it from losing oxygen, losing blood, getting stabbed through this thing, and he just starts walking, and then this cable like tensions, and it just like pulls him back, and I wince real hard, and then yeah, he goes in and does surgery on himself, gets himself patched up, and basically comes to terms with it. The one kind of miss in this movie, it brushes on it a little bit, but Mark Watney always seems pretty positive. He very rarely kind of breaks down at the situation, even kind of in the front end, right? He says something, he looks a little bit down and he's like, I'm not going to die here. And then it's pretty much positive from then on out for the most part. So he's got to get to work, starts doing all the science things.
That's right. I watched this with my son. And for anybody who has never listened, I have a son. He's 8. He watches a lot of movies that are probably beyond his time, and that's kind of by design. But we were watching this, and he immediately after he does the surgery on himself, he does have that moment where he's like, ah, and then he records himself and he's like, well, I didn't die, and here's all the things that could go wrong. Right? Like I could run out of air, I could run out of water, there could be another explosion, I could be depressurized, and if none of those things happen, eventually I'm going to run out of food and I'm going to starve to death. So more to come. And then he kind of wakes up the next day. Maybe it took a couple days, but he wakes up like the next day and he starts to quote unquote do the math. He's like, let's science the heck out of this, right? He says that, and he
That's right.
thinks about things, and he's like, how in the world am I going to be able to grow food? So he does all these really like systemic, like really logical, well thought out things, right? And we watch him do this, and I love the cinematography choices that they made at the beginning of this, where they're videoing him as you would like from a regular camera crew perspective, but they also have these video kind of settings where it looks like there's a set camera that's been set up on the hab in the facility, kind of watching him, and he's talking to it, probably as a way to deal with the loneliness that he feels, because he's there for something like 28 months by himself with no one to talk to. So we've seen some of that in other films where, like in, I think it's I Am Legend, he like makes up, the main character, Will Smith's character, makes up like dolls, like dummy, what are they called, mannequins, like to be people, and he gives them personalities and stuff. Mark Watney doesn't have the time for that. He doesn't have the dolls for that, so instead he just talks to himself and makes all these videos of like, all right, well, I found some potatoes that we were going to save for Thanksgiving, and there's not very many of them. There's like 30 potatoes, and he's like, but I'm a botanist, and I bet with my whole team's 18 days of poo that's been sitting in this bio waste place in these bags. By the way, NASA, you're gonna have to explain why we're putting poop in bags if we're still gonna leave it on Mars. Were we planning on taking it home with us? I don't know. Somebody explain it to me. But apparently that is enough bio waste and has enough stuff in it that can grow stuff. And Mark Watney figures out how to make water. So he's like, I'm going to create this garden inside this lab that we would normally be like taking chemical compounds and measuring, I don't know, Mars rocks. Instead, we're going to do this, so I don't have to die and starve to death.
Yeah, and it's really neat the way that, like you said, Ridley Scott kind of films and captures this on kind of the multiple cameras, and obviously Mark Watney is talking to these cameras, doing it as a means to not let himself go crazy, but he's also a scientist, right? So he's in the habit of documenting all of these things. I think he might even say in the movie, or he at least says it in the book I saw in the things, he's like, I have to document this stuff because at some point people will find it, in 10 years, in 100 years, someone will find this, so I have to document all of this stuff. So I think that's pretty neat. And then kind of like this whole first section is him figuring out how to grow these potatoes on Mars, right? Mars will come to fear my botany skills, says Mark Watney, and he's able to start growing some potatoes so he can ration out his food, and he's figuring out a way to make it to kind of the next Mars expedition, this Ares mission that's coming. But bad news is that landing spot is elsewhere on Mars. So he has to figure out how to get there. But luckily, we have a keen eye down on Earth and NASA who's watching these satellite images and says, hey, that thing just moved. There shouldn't be anything moving on Mars. What's going on? There's a dead guy up there and a bunch of our stuff. But now some stuff is moving. What's up with that? So they start looking at it a little bit closer, and down on Earth is coming to light that Mark Watney didn't die by that cable and the antenna.
Right. Yeah. And it's their communications antenna. So it's not like they can call and be like, hey, is anybody there? Right. That creates right. a problem. Hole in the story. I think that they would have had like 2 comms. They would not have a single point of failure. I believe NASA probably would spend our tax dollars I don't know, creating like 3 or 4 of those just in case, because of things like Apollo 13 that were actual things that happened that went wrong. So problem number 1, but let's say for the sake, this is exactly what happens. And so they kind of have to decide at this point. And I think, again, this really, it's a really neat insight as to how this script was created based on the book, because it's a struggle that is pervasive in the book as well, and the humanity of it, because his crew, it takes like 18 months to get home from Mars. So they have been living the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months at this point, believing that they left Mark Watney dead. They're very somber. They're just trying to get home. They have no idea. And so on one side, it's like the mission controller who's down on Earth is like, hey, I don't want to tell them that they left him there. They're going to feel horrible, and they're going to be on their own without any access to like therapy and things to like process that it wasn't their fault. And oh my gosh, how do we let Mark Watney know that we can see him and that we're here and that we're going to try and figure out a way to save him? Or what is the plan? Because they can do the math too, right? They have very smart scientists that are starting to work on this. And I love the guy who's in charge of the JPL, the Jet Propulsion Lab. He is played by Benedict Wong. He is amazing. I love this character so much because he's hearing this stuff and he's like, oh, okay, well, somebody needs to go home and bring me some clothes, because he's like, I'm not leaving this lab until we figure out a way to get him home. And he's probably lives in that lab for like 2 full years trying to figure out all the different options that they have to, get him, either get food to him so he can just live up there and not starve to death, or figure out a way to extract him, or figure out a way to just get him to survive. But the first order of business is the communications, because they're like, hey, we got to figure out a way to like let him know that we're here. And it's amazing how that plays out on the big screen.
Yeah, they have to get the communications back up, and really that's going to fall onto Mark Watney, who kind of figures out the way to do that. And there's a really cool sequence there as Vincent Kapoor, who's played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, is kind of figuring out what Mark Watney is up to. He is going to get the basically to uncover the Mars rover that is just up there. Good Night Oppie, go watch that on Amazon Prime. Should have been, it wasn't even nominated. Ridiculous for best documentary. Get out of here. But I really like the NASA team here, and I really like the way the cast plays together and play off of each other really well. So you got Jeff Daniels, who's playing Teddy Sanders. He's like the head of NASA. You've got Kristen Wiig, who's playing Annie Montrose. She's like, I think she's like the communications director, I think, for NASA, or like public relations director for NASA, something like that. You've got Sean Bean, who's playing Mitch Henderson. He is basically in charge of like the astronauts. You've got Benedict Wong, as you mentioned, is running the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and then Vincent Kapoor there is kind of in charge of these Mars missions. But yeah, Mark Watney has figured out that if he goes and uncovers this Mars rover, if he can get it to turn back on, he knows that that's going to start uploading pictures to NASA like every, I don't know, like 8 minutes or whatever it was set up to do. So they're able to work out some sort of communications thing, get that online, and they figure out a way to start communicating. And then they're able to get kind of that communication link up into like the Mars, like I don't know, truck that he has, his Mars van that he drives around on there, and then they have open communication, so they can start talking. And then it's up to the team on the ground to figure out how are we going to keep this guy alive until the next mission can get there. And that's where we're going to have to, start leaning on some help from some international friends to maybe get some supplies up in the air.
That's right. It's interesting because they're fighting this battle on multiple fronts, right? So they're trying to figure out and help. Of course, Mark Watney is been there, and he's like, I've been growing these potatoes for 3 months now. Thank you very much. Like, I don't need your help. But of course, they're like, well, how can we grow more? How can we do more? It's probably why he probably wanted to make vodka with some of the potatoes, and they probably told him that he shouldn't because he needed those to survive. Because I definitely would have. I would have been like, screw you guys. I'm making all the alcohol that I possibly can because I could die up here. But they are kind of fast tracking this food supply satellite that they are trying to send off that would give him more supplies. And then what he would do is just kind of go rendezvous with that when it lands. Unfortunately, that breaks because this is real life. I mean, it's based in like a plausible world, right, where things go wrong. And so the launch doesn't go well. That's a problem because now he's really on his own, and all he has is the food that he can make and what he has in reserves. And there's not a lot. I mean, it will run out. And then there's a problem. There's an explosion in the hab, and it destroys his lab. And they say, well, he doesn't have enough time and he doesn't have enough poo of his own to like rebuild that farm. There's just no way to do that. So it becomes a real problem. And it is at that point that his crew has been finally notified that they left him behind. And there is a really amazing, scene with Jessica Chastain and that entire team where she's like, look, we have an opportunity. Someone has, on the sly given us new coordinates that the government has said, hey, we don't want you to do this, but you could do it. Donald Glover, I absolutely love him as Rich Purnell. He is this astrodynamicist, I think is what they say. And he is like a kid. He's like a big child, but he's a freaking genius. And he's like talking to Jeff Daniels as if he's just a dude. And he's like, my name's Teddy and I run NASA. What are you doing? And he has this whole plan. But that crew is going to need to make a decision, and they're going to have to kind of defy orders, which is bad. We say that that's a bad thing, but they defy the orders to go save their friend. And then like they hitch around. It's a lot of math. I probably getting this all wrong, but like they hitch around the moon and decide that they backtrack and head back towards Mars. So they have to like tell all their family and friends that I'm going to be out here for another 20 months. And amazingly, all the families are like, it's fine, whatever, go save your friend, go,
we've already moved on because you've been gone for like 4 years at this point. Right. Yeah, for sure. They have their little mutiny roundtable and decide that they are going to in fact go back to try to pick up Mark there from Mars. And that's I guess kind of the mission, right, is to keep Mark alive. He's got to get out to the place where this other like launch vehicle was. I didn't really understand where that vehicle came from or what it was doing there. I guess that was the redundant thing that they left, but they had to figure out a way to get there. So I don't really know how that works for sure, but he's able to go out and get there, and that's kind of the plan now, right? So the original Ares crew is going to swing around the Earth, I think, pick up speed, head back to Mars, and they're going to intercept this shuttle that our friends in China launch with resupplies to get enough food and supplies to make basically another whole 3-year round trip to Mars and back for this crew and Mark Watney. So that is the plan that is in motion. I really like this. They're having like the meeting down at NASA. And Jeff Daniels, Teddy Sanders is there and is like, okay, so we have to get him in this capsule, but we have to take out all the windows and take off the nose of this thing. And even Mark Watney's like, so I'm going to be like going up into space in a convertible. And they make a big deal about this, but I guess on one hand, if you don't do this, then you're just going to die of starvation anyway. So just get on with it, astronauts for sure. And then that's kind of kind of the ultimate finale there of Mark Watney launching into space and getting grabbed by Jessica Chastain. But yeah, there's a lot of sciencing in here, and apparently NASA was the actual NASA here, our NASA, was very helpful in kind of designing these things and helping with the writing and helping with the science and the locations and where things would be hypothetically in the situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I really love we there's a whole bunch of work that's done in that we see in NASA and at the JPL laboratories, and all of that looks incredible. NASA did partner with the filmmaking. He also partnered with Weir as he was making the film,
Hmm.
or sorry, writing the book, not making the film. But I want to talk a little bit about the art direction of Mars itself. So
Hmm. Hmm.
because there's a lot of like landscape, really sweeping views of what it looks like there, and it is the best depiction of Mars I've ever seen, except in Goodnight Oppie, which we just watched as a documentary a couple of years ago.
Hmm.
But that was that the look and feel is slightly different, but this was amazing because this wasn't a documentary, and this was really just some of the views and the depictions based on actual photos that they rendered were so amazing. And it's hard to believe that we've never that a human has actually never been to Mars, given the way that they made it look and the
Hmm.
vastness in some of these kind of desert journeys that we see Mark taking, because he goes out on his little rover thing a couple of different times, right? He goes out to see if he can withstand the cold. He goes out to see if he can get the communications device from the rover. He goes out on this really long trek to kind of find that other kind of
Yeah, that
docking
other
station
launch
that can
pod thing. Yeah.
that other
Hmm.
launch thing that can send him up. And he sets up these uh, solar panels every time, and then he sleeps under the car like so that he doesn't die. I mean, it's amazing the way that they have that attention to detail from a science perspective, but also the way it looks is just incredible. um
Hmm. Yeah, and the Mars stuff was filmed in the Wadi room in Jordan, which they've done a lot of filming, I guess, for Mars landscapes and stuff too. But yeah, just the vastness of it is really impressive. And I think I don't know if you can still get to it, but I think when the movie came out, NASA was doing a lot of publicity for it and stuff, and they actually put out like maps of Mars as to where like Mark would have gone on his journey, which is pretty cool for stuff like that. But yeah, it looks gorgeous the way they captured the sunset. I don't know how much of that was real sunsets over Jordan. If those were real sunsets over Jordan, we need to go to Jordan, Michaela, because that looks beautiful. But it looks gorgeous. There's a lot of really great scenes then of Mark and that kind of that I don't know that vehicle thing that he's in, and that's where he's having most of his communication back with his old team, back with NASA and things. And those are kind of the moments where you see him getting emotional. There's a really beautiful and touching scene where it's cutting back and forth to him, basically typing on this computer, talking to Melissa Lewis, right, his commanding officer there, telling her to, I hate to ask this of you, but if I die, someone has to tell my parents what happened, and I want it to be you. And it's cutting like back and forth to him, like sitting out overlooking kind of this Martian sunset, and it's really beautiful, and it's really kind of emotional. And Matt Damon is a wizard at acting for sure. So yeah, stuff like that is more kind of intimate, placed in within this, more or less this scientific romp on Mars that Mark Watney is having.
yeah. Yeah, and the physical kind of transformation that we see of Mark Watney as well is pretty profound, because he does literally almost starve to death. I find it interesting though, and it's a hole maybe in the plot, because he knows at the very beginning that he could very much run out of food, and yet there's a lot of scenes at the beginning when he's counting up how much food he has, where he's like eating chicken soup and drinking a whole thing of grape juice, and I'm like, dude, you're gonna regret that later. You're gonna regret drinking all that stuff, because
Yeah.
by the end, they actually use a body double that looks nothing like Matt Damon's normal body. this He is like super gaunt, super thin. He looks like he's just skin and bone. And I
Hmm.
loved that sounds bad because I don't love that people would be starving, but the way that they did that was really seamless and it was really effective. He's covered in bruises because he's just worked so hard just to do all the things that need to get done, because it is just him. He is a one-man show just trying to survive. And you wouldn't think that it's that hard, but I mean, it had a number on him. Like, he looks very, very different from the end, when he's finally kind of in that capsule that is flying through the air, and his team is trying to pick him up. And I mean, at the end, of course, things still go wrong, right? So he ends up being really far away from the kind of the connection point that they're supposed to have. They have to improvise, the crew has to improvise, and then of course he's like, let's go Iron Man, and he like cuts a hole in his suit to like create air flow so he can kind of, I don't know, like Iron Man his way to the ship. And then we think he's not going to make it. Like, it's very, very suspenseful. Then we think they're going to get caught up in the string that's like holding out the Commander Lewis as she's like trying to pick him up. So they finally get together and he's like, thanks so much. And then he's like, by the way, you have horrible taste in music, because there's a running gag that the only music that poor Mark Watney has had access to is like 70s disco. And it's very heartfelt and very wonderful. It's a great ending. And you see like the whole world kind of rejoice at the coming together to save this one person. It's pretty special.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I really like, there's kind of these scenes there with Annie Montrose, Kristen Wiig's character, where she's talking like, we need to get a picture of him. So he goes and he's trying to decide like how he's going to pose for this picture, and ends up doing like the Fonz. And she's like, I can't use that. I need a picture of his face. And he's like, he's in a spacesuit. What do you want him to do? But I like that they make kind of like the mundane reality of the situation, right? Like anytime you want to do anything, you have to layer up in like 19 layers of the spacesuit and put it on to like even like step outside to grab something, right? Like every time you do that, and they make kind of like this mundane reality of Mark Watney surviving for 3 years on his own just be so like engaging and captivating. And it's not even like so much that you're like concerned for Mark Watney like in the moment. You're more just curious as to how he's going to solve this problem. And I think that's really neat, and I'm assuming that was kind of built off of the structure of the book, and they do a really good job of capturing it. And Matt Damon, of course, is charismatic enough that he could pull it off, right? I mentioned Castaway, where Tom Hanks was kind of the only person you could really imagine being able to hold your attention for like 2 hours there. And it's the same kind of thing here for Matt Damon in this role, and there's a touching kind of sentimentality to it, and then obviously get like the positive like upliftingness of it, of the NASA crew and all of these geniuses coming together to try to figure out this problem and bring Mark Watney back home. And it's just absolutely great. It's so engaging. The pacing of the movie is really well done, and things like that. This is a good one, Michaela, for sure. And Mark Watney is back safe and sound, right? Melissa Lewis grabs him in her little space arms, and they kind of hold on to each other in the vacuum of space before they get reeled back on board there. Mark Watney is able to finally relax a minute, and basically it just cuts back to Earth, right? Mark Watney is there sitting on a bench, which is pretty cool, and he is now in charge of teaching the next generation of astronauts.
That's right. And what does he say? He's like, you know what? Things are going to go wrong, and there's going to be a moment where you're definitely going to think you're going to die, and you're going to think this is how I end. And what do? You do the math, and you get to work and work the problem. And I really love that he's so calm about it. He's very he's like, he's like, yes, I did that. This happened to me, and I don't want to talk about it. He's just kind of like, I don't know. I really like that he doesn't become he's this celebrity in himself. And we see all of these snippets of people that helped make this happen all come together again for the next launch, for that next era's 5. And you see that one person actually ends up going back. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
One of the oh my gosh, I'm trying to find him in my cast here. Mindy Park, Bruce Wong, Daniel Glover. Shit, no, it's no. Well, Michael Pena. He ends up going back.
Yeah.
His Major Rick Martinez, which is interesting because it was one of the scenes was him and his wife where she was like, I know you've always wanted to do this. It's fine that you're being deployed for another 2 years, and then he goes back like 2 years later. He's going to be gone for another 5 years. I don't know. I would have thought he would have had enough space, but I love that he's one of the returning members, and everybody else has kind of moved on. So you see Commander Lewis. She's finishing a run. Her husband's kind of watching the launch with her. And then, of course, we have the lovers, Dr. Chris Beck and Dr. Johansson. They just had a baby. And so they're watching the launch from their hospital room. And we've got the Love Train song on. It's just this coming home sense of like space and how that we didn't let, like the world didn't let this thing that happened scare them from going back. Everybody's kind of come together to go see this whole new group of people go out and explore, which is really cool, which is what the whole space program was all about. And that's why I think one of the reasons why this movie is so great for young people to watch, because it's got a lot of science to it, but there's no sex, there's hardly any, there's no violence really, other than you see, some surgery, some staple gun, right? There's hardly any language. The science might be over young people's heads. I mean, my son had to ask me a couple times about what was happening and why they were like, why was he making water and how did that work? And we had to look it up, which was a good learning moment. But because I was like, I don't know, he's burning something. I don't know. I don't know how this happens. But other than that, I thought this was really cool because it's a really sciencey based movie, but also had a really human story to it. It's beautiful. It's well acted. The script is impeccable.
Yeah. The script is great. It looks absolutely great. Apparently there's a director's cut of this because Ridley Scott made it. So of course there is, which adds like 40 more minutes onto the movie, which I've never seen. I have no intention of seeing because there's no way that 40 more minutes could improve this movie. I don't think. So I don't know. Let me know if I'm wrong about that out there for sure. I really like the structure of this movie. Like I mentioned, Mark Watney gets stranded on Mars after basically like the 8-minute mark of the movie. And is back on Earth with only, I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes of movie left in. So like the whole entirety of the movie is Mark Watney stranded on Mars, which is, kind of what you're paying to see, I guess, in a movie like this, right? So I think it does a really good job of kind of maximizing the time that you're getting to spend, with Mark Watney solving these problems on Mars. Sean Bean, who's playing Mitch Henderson, who's kind of in charge of the astronauts here on this mission. There's an amazing scene where they're sitting at this conference room back at the NASA headquarters, and it's when Donald Glover's character comes in and they say it's basically like the Council of Elrond from Lord of the Rings, and Sean Bean is there, which is amazing.
He's the only one who knows what it is at first. He's like, guys.
I can't believe he didn't ad-lib something like, I feel like I've been here before or something. Right. That would have been amazing.
One does not simply go and rescue a man from Mars.
That would have been great. I love that. I love Kristen Wiig's character in this. I don't always love Kristen Wiig's characterization in movies, but I think she's really good here in this one. And yeah, it's this kind of perfect balance of the way they handled kind of these three storylines that are ongoing here in this movie, and it's really good. And I'm sad that it didn't win any of the 70 Academy Awards it was nominated for. It should have been. Maybe, I don't know for sure, but it is really good. It did really well at the box office. Michaela made a little over, I think it made like $230 million on like a $70 million budget. So it did pretty well box office wise there. So a good job on you, Martian. And like I said, this opened the eyes of a lot of people. There's a little bit of spottiness kind of in some of the science, but a lot of it is rooted in reality. And even people that are scientists that would, kind of be like, well, you can't really use duct tape on like the outside of that thing because it's too cold in Mars, so it wouldn't adhere So that doesn't work, but it doesn't matter because the movie is such a good like engineering recruiting tool that it doesn't matter that there's a couple of instances like that where things are fudged a little bit in the making of this. And NASA historically is not one to really work with movies. They kind of worked with Apollo 13 because that was an actual like NASA story. But really they kind of stay hands off on kind of these more space exploration type of movies. But they really leaned in here both with the book and the film here for The Martian. And I think that is pretty cool. And NASA is a very, very important organization that we need to support more. Be nicer to NASA out there, everyone.
Be nicer to NASA. At some point we're going to realize that the universe doesn't actually revolve around the Earth. So maybe we should learn more about the other parts of it. Yeah. I don't know. I think you summed it up. I mean, so let's talk about our personal experiences. Did you watch this in prep for the Oscars? I know I did, but I don't. What was that was before we'd met. So tell
No,
me
it
about
was,
your
yeah.
experience with The Martian.
Yeah, so it would have been 2015 when this came out, which was the year I moved back to Charlotte. So I don't remember where I would have seen it. I didn't see it in the movie theater, but I remember either renting it or streaming it or something around the time that it would have come out. I wasn't as into knocking off all of the Oscar films, but basically just watching the films that were good. And this, being nominated for Best Picture, that year definitely fell into that category. Matt Damon is an actor I like a lot. I really like space films. If you remember back to our Apollo 13 episode, which the numbers eluding me, it's like number episode 34 or something like that, I think. So these stories are interesting to me on that level. So I was, very excited to see it. So yeah, I would have seen it around the time that it came out, kind of similar to you, I'm guessing, like you'd said, kind of in lead up to Oscar stuff that year. But I haven't
Yeah,
watched it. I haven't watched it since. So this was the first time that I'd watched it since that first initial viewing,
yeah,
which is weird because I think it was very rewatchable. And I don't know that I could watch it like every year or even like every other year, but every couple of years, I think that this would be a fun one to go back to, especially now as we're getting closer to actual manned missions to Mars. I think you're going to see kind of like an uptick in people, talking about this and revisiting this and stuff like that.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I found this an incredibly watchable film. When I'm looking at what won last in 2016, yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to be mad. Best visual effects, Ex Machina. I mean, I haven't watched that since I watched it the first time. This, I mean, again, I felt comfortable showing this to my son, who's only 8. Now, granted, there, a little bit went over his head, but this is definitely a film that really has a lot of great themes that I think enrich the human experience. So if you've not seen it, I definitely think it is worth your time.
Mhm.
And if you have seen it, I think it's worth your time again. And if it's one of your favorites, we want you to try our cocktail and tell us what you think about it.
Yeah, that's right. Let us know what you think at home about The Martian. It's a fun one. So if you haven't seen it in a long time, definitely go back and revisit it. It's worth the 2 hour time investment to check it out, and make sure you check out the cocktail, Michaela, the Martian Sunrise. It is a really good one. It's a fun kind of tiki drink there. Those ingredients were stuff that I had on hand. I didn't have to go out and buy a bunch of stuff to put that together, so it was an easy kind of cocktail from that stance too, if you wanted something a little summery or just something that looked really cool with that grenadine coming in and making that sunrise effect there. It was a good one. So if you do that, take pictures and send them to us, tag us, post them on our Discord, all that stuff. You can find us online. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. You can go to our website, www.drinkthemovies.com. We have pictures of ours. We have episode recaps. We have stuff for Drink the Music episodes. We have stuff for Drink the Video Games, the YouTube channel that's going. So go check that out. You can do all that on our website. Again, www.drinkthemovies.com. You can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/Drink the Movies. Get bonus behind the scenes stuff, episodes, hangouts, cocktail reviews, all sorts of fun stuff going on our Patreon. Thank you so much to our patrons. You really help us, do amazing stuff with Drink the Movies and talk more about other fun stuff that we want to. So couldn't do that without you. So thank you very much. And thank you to everyone who takes the time to like and subscribe to the podcast. Michaela, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods. We're on iHeartRadio, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are distributed and supported. Whatever you're listening to right now, there's a button. It says subscribe. If you're liking what you're hearing, we do 2 drops a week at least. We hit the subscribe button. We don't just talk about movies. We also drink the music. And we've been doing that a lot lately. That's been a lot of fun. Really, we love all forms of art here and all forms of cocktails. So if you're liking what you're hearing,
all the things we can drink to. All the things we can drink to.
That's right. So if you're liking it, tell your friends, leave a 5-star review, share us on social media. It really helps us build up the community and get more of the music, movies out there.
That's right. Absolutely. So with that, Michaela, I think that's going to wrap it up here for The Martian. Mars is not ready for our botany or podcast skills, I will say. So let's get out of here on that note, and we'll talk to everyone next time on Drink the Movies.
The movies. Do the math. Let's get to work.
I'm going to die up here from listening to so much disco music.